Anyone? Yes.
Okay, this is kind of about the application process. So I know that you can submit the application June 1st, okay? But say like in the time you submit your application to like when you interview, you like maybe have a new volunteer experience or something. Can you still go in and add that?
You can add it to your application, but what students will do is.
Let's repeat the question, okay? So,
Yeah. All right, so she said if she applied June 1st, and then by the time she was interviewed, just say in October, if she had a new shadowing experience or if anything had happened that she wanted to add to her application, could she go into her AMCAS application and add it? And no. Once you submit it, you can't even change your address. It's done. But what you can do is email like me, saying this is what I'd like to add to my application, and I print it out and put it in your file. So that's how a lot of people add to their application.
If you are not picking the MCAT until the end of July, is it still worth it to send in your application June 1st or like the end of June, as soon as you can, even if your MCAT score will not get there until the end of August?
Well, the good thing about applying. Okay.
I want everybody to
Okay,
hear. These are good questions, yes.
If you're not taking the MCAT until the end of July, is there any purpose to apply earlier than that, since your MCAT score is not going to even be in until the end of August? Yes, it's good to go ahead and apply, because once you apply, it's going to take AMCAS at least a month to verify your application. In the early stages, it may take 6 weeks. So while that's going on, you're getting your letters of recommendations in, so that once your MCAT score is received, your application would already be complete, and we can schedule you for interviews. And so if you wait, your interview is going to be later on down the line. And what a lot of people don't realize, a lot of applications are complete by, say, October 1st. Well, if we have 200 applications that are complete, we only schedule 15 or 16 interviews each Friday. So you can see, we would be 3 months out even before you get an interview if your file's completed that way. So the better, the sooner you get it in, I think the better, just because if you want to be in that interview process, which you would, sooner than later is better.
Did you want to speak about early admission?
Yeah, I thought about that as I was thinking. Early admission means you're only going to apply to MUSC. When you look at your application first, you have to have your application, everything has to be in by August 1st. And you are interviewed in September, and you know by the October 1st if you've been accepted. So if you're not accepted for early decision, it does not knock you out of the running for any other medical school. You can contact AMCAS that day when they open up your application to all the other medical schools. But if you apply early decision, every year we have at least 60 students who apply. And we probably end up interviewing at least 45 to 50. And probably at least 40 of those get in. So a high percentage of those students, if you're looked at as 1 of 50, it's a whole lot better than being looked at as 1 of 400. You see what I mean? So it's a definite good thing. But right now, the average GPA you have to have unadjusted is 3.5, and the average MCAT's a 27. I always say I really look for them to raise that MCAT to like 29. But right now, it's
What is the purpose of having the adjusted GPA if everyone, like all of us that look at our just like going to be adjusted? Is it like level the playing field? Like how does it really
well, it does.
It's not good.
You said your question.
Okay, what's the purpose of the adjusted GPA? And this is a good thing you need to realize, because it sounds good when she says it, but Katie's right. If only Clemson students are applying, it washes out. But you're going to be applying with other students coming in from all different kinds of schools. So yeah, it's not going to help you with your fellow Clemson students.
But it helps a lot with the other students. Those 450, because there are some schools that have no adjustment. For instance, MUSC doesn't have an adjustment because it's a different kind of school. It's not accredited the same way. Bob Jones doesn't have an adjustment. Some of the schools that are in the less competitive, non-competitive, they don't really get an adjustment. USC, I'll just say USC Aiken, for instance, is not in the USC system, so it's not ranked like USC. And I see students come in, and if they have a 3.6 GPA and a, say, 29 MCAT, they're really hurting. Whereas if they've been in a school that had a 0.5, they have a 4.1 and a 29, you see? So it's really not so much for y'all. It helps you definitely, but it really helps you overall in the whole scheme of everybody getting interviewed.
So if we had a like 3.5 at Clemson, we would get 0.5, so we would have technically a 4.0. What would that, the point system, how would that help us? Like what would our points be?
Well, that just means that 1/4 of that formula,
Yeah.
you have a very high
Okay.
rate.
And please keep in mind, this is only for MUSC. Other med schools do not use, or there might be others, but I'm only aware of MUSC doing the Barron scale and giving you this adjusted GPA. So
This here really came because we recognize that some schools are more difficult to make grades than other schools. And if you look at somebody who has a 4.0 from a school that's they've not been challenged at all, that student is not necessarily going to do well in medical school. So it's not fair for y'all to really come to a school that takes a lot to make an A in a science course or any of the courses, and have that compared to an A in another school that's not even anywhere near as challenging. It's just not right, and that's how we came up with the adjustment.
Kyle, what's your question?
Yeah, well, I have another question about the adjustment itself. How does the adjustment work? Does it go up to 4.0 or does it go beyond 4.0?
Beyond 4.0. If you had a 4.0 from Clemson, you'd have a 4.5.
Okay, yeah, it does.
Somebody in the back.
This might sort of be jumping the gun because we're talking about admissions, but how does consideration for scholarships work?
Yeah. Well,
What
that's
was
a
the
good
question?
Why? How does consideration?
I didn't hear it. What was the second question?
How does it help with scholarships?
How does it help with scholarships?
GPA.
The
What do we
GPA?
look at?
Yeah, scholarships at med school. Y'all give out scholarships like paper, is free?
No.
It's easy to
No.
get scholarships, right?
It's not like undergraduate. I mean, very few really top-notch scholarships are given, but they're recruitment scholarships. The ones that are full tuition fees for 4 years of medical school, there are 4 of those given. And those are students, we look at your GPA, your MCAT score, and also, of course, your interview scores, but it's mainly recruitment for students who can go anywhere. So those students have like a 39 MCAT, 3.9 GPA, 38 MCAT, but a lot of students will say, do you think I'll be considered? And they might have a 34 MCAT, which is great, and a 3.7, but they're not going to probably be one that gets the outstanding. Now, there are other scholarships that are like $5,000 a piece, some are $10,000. Again, we're looking at grades, MCAT scores, but also some scholarships are need-based. And so students who apply who really have great need, they're probably going to get some of those scholarships. But I think out of the first year class we gave out last year, about 28 to 30 scholarships. But really what I consider, there were probably 8 very good scholarships. 4 total tuition fees paid for, others were maybe like $15,000 a year for 4 years. So those are good scholarships.
And for the students on the admission committee, what exactly are they up to?
The students
What
on
are they
the
up to?
admissions committee, what are they up to?
Their goal.
Oh,
Okay.
what is their role for? How did
Yes,
they get
ma'am.
on there? Okay.
Oh, well, what are they doing?
Okay. They are giving the student perspective. They're lending the student perspective pretty much to the admissions committee. They come in, they're not far from the process from where y'all are, and they have a lot of good things to say. A lot of times they bring points up to the committee that nobody really thought about. But they're also very tough interviewers, because it's almost like, y'all didn't even pick up on this. Listen, when I interviewed this student, this is what she said. And I remember one year, somebody, for instance, the person, and it was several years ago when ANPAS was changing over, and they had a bad year. And so we would get applications in batches, and some things were missing from the application. It was just not good. But one of the students interviewed somebody one day, and everybody loved this student, and loved the applicant. And the student sat there till everybody else said something about the applicant, and he said, you know what? He didn't bother to write a personal statement. Nobody else had even picked up on that. And so, one person who was on the admissions committee had interviewed the student, and he's like, well, I sort of saw that, but, I didn't think anything about it. He said, well, I asked him about it. Why didn't you write a personal statement? And he said, I didn't know what to say, and I just felt like I didn't need it. He did not get noticed, because right away, it was like, if he didn't feel like he needed to do that, he shouldn't be a student in this medical school. But that was just one thing that student brought up. But they help us interview. They're very valuable. They help us if anybody comes to campus. We have a whole group of students, probably 40 to 50, who are our ambassadors. They want to do the tours. They want to show students around, and they want to be on panels. But when a lot of the really heavy duty stuff comes up that we need a student for, the students on the admissions committee are going to do it for us.
So there are just 2 a year, and they have to apply for that position. And they are chosen by the current students on the admissions committee. So they go through and do a first screen through, how many applications?
Like 50.
That's like a third of the class practically. And so they do a first screening, they come up with the first set of interview, or first pass interview, and then they narrow it down to a final interview.
It was a great honor then.
It's a tremendous honor to be one of the 2 people who finally get there. They don't really, the first years don't really interview too much during the first year, maybe at the very end. So they're sort of observing and getting the feel for what goes on in those committee meetings when we actually present students that we've interviewed. But it's a real learning curve, at first, but then they're very active. And their vote matters just as much as any voting member of the faculty members. So, and they're very good. They're really good people. I'll have to say that the members of the admissions committee are some of the finest students that we've ever had.
And we follow them when they get out, like Jeremy that I showed on the screen there. Jeremy, Jim on the side, Neto, every one of them, Andrea, they interview for us now. They move on out, but as physicians, they're going to still be one of our outside interviewers. So, because who better than somebody who served on the admissions committee? So we have a lot of students who are out there interviewing who maybe graduated 10, 12, 15 years ago, but they served on the admissions committee and they're still interviewing for us.
So if you come and you get an interview with a student, don't treat that casually at all. Don't make that mistake. Say, oh, well, this is great. Don't do that, because they'll comment on that. Treat it as any other interview that you would have, and you'll enjoy your interview if you interview with one of those.
And I've really turned more over to them, because I thought the other day I had a school coming. There were like 14 or 15 students who were going to come, and they wanted to sit in on class with the students. And in the past, I've always emailed students saying, would you be willing, and they're all willing, but to try to match up who would be good with these students and all. And I thought, I emailed the 2 first-year students, and I said, this group of students wants to come. There's 16 of them, so you get about 6 of your classmates to help. Oh, they were thrilled to do it. They arranged for everything, where they were going to meet them. All I had to do when the students came to my office was get somebody to walk them over, and these students took it from there. So that's kind of their role, is to help us manage some of the admissions stuff, and so they do a great job. But there's students on the progress committee, there's students on the curriculum committee. It's really where your interest might be. But we don't let students sit on those committees if they're marginal, if they get on the committee and we don't even pick the admissions committee until like the end of October, where they've had a couple of tests, because if they're struggling, they can't be on the committee. They have to be
that's
top
actually
notch.
policy. That's a policy. If you find yourself in a position where you have to remediate, we ask you